The world's top tennis players have descended upon New York City for the U.S. Open. This tournament will be the last for Gordon Smith. He's the CEO of the U.S. Tennis Association. Smith announced his retirement earlier this year. I caught up with him outside Arthur Ashe Stadium, where we discussed the future of the sport. Here's some of our conversation. It's been one of the criticisms of tennis in the United States is that there hasn't been enough focus in training and developing tennis athletes.
Right. So tennis, the old USTA used to wait till kids had learned to play tennis, and then we'd say, you can come play one of our tournaments if you want to. Well, that's not what we're about anymore. We're about getting our fair share of the youth sports marketplace. We have a new brand. It's called Net Generation, and it's our way of getting kids and parents interested in the game. It's a digital platform. It connects you with local providers, so when you go, you have a good experience. Tennis is such an amazingly healthy game. We need to expose it to more parents and kids.
So you focused on children. You've had a great effort, and baseball has Little League.
Right.
You're hoping that Net Generation becomes a place for young kids to really start and get that training.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the modern theory on sport is kids ought to play multiple sports. Early specialization is a problem. So we just want kids to have tennis as part of what they do. They don't have to play only tennis, but they need to have it as part, because when they get older and there's no more football and there's no more baseball, tennis can be there for them for a lifetime.
It's a sport you can take for life.
No question.
When you look at the women's field here, Serena Williams, obviously a big name. You've got some folks that we didn't even know about 12 months ago, right? Naomi Osaka. You've also got Coco Gauff, who had a great year. Sloane Stephens. What do you think is really behind women's tennis and its success?
I think there are really two things. Number one, tennis is one of the few sports that women get paid well in, and we were we championed that. We've had equal pay at the U.S. Open since 1973.
I don't think many people know that there is, whatever the men are making for the awards that they win, women are making the same.
Since 1973. We're glad to see that other sports are coming to this. We don't have anything to say about them other than we've been a leader for a long time. So number one, parents look at their kids and say, I'd like my daughter to be in a sport where if she excels, she could actually make a living. Number two, Venus and Serena. They have been such incredible role models for young women and American women, particularly young women of color. You combine the fact that it's a sport women can excel in financially. It's a sport that is led by two great role models in Venus and Serena. That's what's made the difference.
And Venus has actually been incredibly critical force when it comes to equality. Can you talk to us a little bit about her history?
Well, yes. So Venus led the way even for Serena. When Venus did this, there weren't young women of color in the game, and she was the trailblazer. And she is such a mature, thoughtful person, and she's handled all of this so beautifully.
I want to go back to 1973. Billie Jean King did something incredibly powerful to be able to get wage equality in tennis. What did she do?
Look, she stood up for the women, and she said, we're not going to play. This is the right thing to do. And I'm really proud. This was, of course, decades before my time, but how proud I am of the USTA. In a time when women's sports, there weren't women's pro sports. There wasn't a move for equality of pay. She stood up, but the USTA actually responded and started paying equally way back in 1973.
When Serena Williams went out on maternity leave, there was really no one who sort of filled that void while she was gone. Do you worry about, at some point, the Williams sisters will retire?
Well, the Williams sisters will retire, but I've got to tell you, we have more great young American players coming up than you can imagine. Sloane Stephens, Madison Keys, all the way down to Coco Gauff, and many, many more in between. So I hope that Venus, who's 38 or 39, I hope she plays forever. I hope Serena plays forever, but we know that won't happen. But we have so many great young American women coming up that will be in great shape.
So you've got U.S. Open champions like Novak Djokovic, Naomi Osaka. Naomi's match unfortunately won't be remembered for just her dominating, but there was a little bit of chaos there. The backstory with her and Serena and the back and forth with the referee at that time, Ramos.
What were the lessons that USTA and tennis learned from that?
Well, we're not going to go back and really relive that, but moving forward, we learned that we needed to make sure all of our officials, and by the way, Carlos Ramos is a very high quality, very fine official. He's here this year, and he's working very top matches here. So we learned that we need to make sure that all our officials enforce the rules consistently, and so that when a player gets a warning and then gets the next step, that every official would have done that the same way, so that there's no surprises. So we've had a lot of training among all the officials to make sure that that those rules are consistently applied. We've also had some gender bias training, just implicit gender bias, just to make sure that everybody is sensitized to treating everyone equally.
You've spent 12 years at the helm here at USTA. Is it a little bittersweet? You've announced you're going to be retiring. How are you feeling about that?
I'm feeling great. We've remade the National Tennis Center. We've built our national campus. We've got some great new programs for kids. I feel like the organization has a good path to the future. And having now attended my 128th straight USTA board meeting, I think it's time for a rest.
So as you look ahead to the future for the USTA, if there was one thing that you hope they don't lose sight of, what would it be?
I think it's all about the grassroots. So if we fill the bottom of the pyramid of tennis, and if the top of the pyramid is Serena, the bottom of the pyramid is some 8 or 9 or 10-year-old who sees Serena and says, I'd like to play tennis. And if we can fill that base of the pyramid with kids and their parents being excited about the game, then everything else about tennis will be healthy.
And for more of my conversation with Gordon Smith, you can subscribe to the CBS This Morning podcast. You can hear the day's top stories in less than 20 minutes.